Ladies and gentlemen, don't be late because it is Touchline Tugao 8 Liga Portugal weekend review. We've seen red cards, but we've also got a Classico in Porto versus Benfica, but also a big game in Sporting versus Sporting Braga. But let's get on to the first game of the game week, which was Casa Pia 2, Estoril 2. A 4-goal thriller, and really, it was a must-win for both teams. But more especially for Ian Cathro's Estoril, as they have looked off the pace this season. Things did start off poorly for Casa Pia though, as some poor defending from their defence from a corner meant Lomenizade had an easy finish, as Estoril went 1-0 up within 15 minutes. But Jeremy Livolant is really the man of the moment. With a great corner from him, he found the head of Kike Rocha to equalise 10 minutes later. And genuinely, I can't say enough big words and good words about Jeremy Livolant, as he capitalised on another Estoril defensive error and hit a long range strike, which beat João Robles and ended up in the top corner. Livolant has had a goal involvement in the last 4 consecutive games. A true baller, but in the first half, Casa Pia definitely had a lot more chances than Estoril, but they really failed to test João Robles apart from the 2 goals. In the second half, there really wasn't any clear-cut chances. That was until the 83rd minute when João Carvalho found the back of the net from a volley when Jose Font failed to clear the ball. I thought Estoril had won it in the dying moments after a great ball from Holzgrove, I believe, found Hjulmand, who had a great shot on goal, but backup goalkeeper Daniel Azevedo, replacing the injured Patrick Sequeira, made a fantastic save for Casa Pia. For me, Casa Pia were the better side in the first half, but Estoril completely took over in the second. For me, 2-2 is a fair result. The best players for me, of course, for Casa Pia is Jeremy Livolant. Of course it is, a goal, an assist, a baller. But similarly for Estoril, I've gone with João Carvalho. A goal, assist, and of course, a baller. The worst for me, Casa Pia, has to be Jose Font, just because of his poor clearance that led to the equaliser. He lost possession 7 times and also committed 2 fouls. But for Estoril, Kevin Bomber will get it for me. Much like Font, gave away the ball for Casa Pia second and also lost possession 8 times. Moving on to Nacional 3, Moreirense 2, and I have to hold up my hands to say, Thiago Margarido, I was unfamiliar with your game. He is killing it with Nacional. I had them to get relegated, but they've genuinely been so good this season. Porto loanee Vasco Sousa got Moreirense onto the score sheet first, scoring after 2 great passes, one first from Sporting loanee Diogo Travassos, then another from Denis Pinto, a cross goal for Sousa to send it into the back of the net. Vasco Sousa quickly went from hero to zero, giving away a penalty after handball in the area, which Jesus Ramirez converted from the spot. Travassos nearly got an assist after a great ball, but unfortunately after a small touch from the keeper, Jan Lincoln put it over the bar. Going at half time, it was 1-1, a pretty even game all round, but a cross from Travassos found Jan Lincoln in the box, who unfortunately headed it straight at the keeper, but luckily Francisco Domingos headed home the rebound, and even backflipped in his celebration. It was now 2-1 to Moreirense, but they wouldn't be in front for long, as a deep free kick from Lizardo found Leo Santos with a brilliant header to beat the Moreirense goalkeeper to make it 2-2. After a lengthy VAR check, the goal was given. Things went from bad to worse for Vasco Sousa and Moreirense, as Paulinho Boia found himself through on goal for Nacional. Vasco Sousa was left with no choice but to cynically foul him, getting a straight red card. In the 83rd minute, a cross came into Moreirense's box, and just as Leo Santos went to head of the ball, Marcelo, in my opinion, deliberately handballed it, and Nacional were awarded a penalty. Although the keeper did go the right way and also got a hand to it, it was still no use. 3-2 to Nacional. The best player for me, even though Ramirez scored 2, Leo Santos is my man of the match. A goal from a corner, and to be fair, nearly another if it went for a handball. 5 out of 7 aerial duels won, 46 out of 52 accurate passes, a clearance off the line, and a stellar performance. For Moreirense, I'm going to go with Diogo Travassos. The Sporting loanee was largely responsible for the 2 goals for Moreirense. 6 out of 8 ground duels won, 3 tackles, and a solid game from the loanee. Worst for Nacional is the goalkeeper Kike. The goalkeeper had a poor time, and definitely should have been better and stronger on the first goal especially. Only 1 save all game, but minus 1.23 goals prevented. A poor game. For Moreirense, it has to be Vasco Sousa. I know he scored, but to give away a penalty, commit 5 fouls and get a red card all in 62 minutes ends you up as the worst player. Moving on to Gil 2, Estrela 0, and Gil Vicente continued their great start to the season with yet another win at home over Estrela Amador, with Pablo scoring 2. And Estrela have been without captain Hjulmand Cabral for a month after sustaining an injury, and I do think the lack of leadership does prove costly to Estrela. Gil did have 2 shots on target within the 30th minute, through Luis Esteves and Zé Carlos, one forcing a save from Renan and the other going wide of the goal. However, Renan would be beaten when his own teammate Kikush put the ball through, tried to header it back to Renan, but put it right into the path of Pablo, who to be fair had a great finish, making it 1-0 to Gil Vicente. And for whatever reason, in the 38th minute, Estrela defender Chernev put Jonathan Boatu in a sleeper hold like a prime Dolph Ziggler, giving away a penalty and giving another goal to Pablo, cheekily going down the middle. The second half would start miserably for Gil Vicente, as a back pass from I believe Facundo Caceres, it was very difficult to tell at the time, to goalkeeper Andrew was short, putting through Kikush and forcing Andrew to a handball outside of the box, causing a red card. But to be honest, after that red card, Estrela really only had one more chance in goal before Renan actually gave away a penalty at the other end in the 88th minute, in which for his hat-trick, Pablo missed. A save from Renan, but the rebound fell into the path of Pablo with a wide open goal, which hit the bar. Unlucky for him, but still a great performance. The best players for me for Gil Vicente, even though he missed a second pen, it has to be Pablo Felipe. He scored 2 goals from 2 shots on target, 2 key passes and 2 out of 2 ground duels won. For Estrela, even though he gave away the penalty, I'm going to have to go with Renan Ribeiro. None of the goals were really his fault, 5 saves including a penalty, 22 out of 30 passes, a solid game overall, but was let down by his defence. The worst for me, Gil Vicente, has to be Andrew. It was a red card, even though it was a bit of a stitch-up pass. He probably could have just slid and got the ball just as easy. For me, Estrela, I'm going to have to put Kikush. He was at fault for the first goal, and he was actually my man in the match last game, but only 1 shot and it was off target, 5 out of 10 completed passes, lost 2 aerial duels, and also lost possession 7 times. Moving on to AVS 1, Alverca 3, and another day, another loss for AVS, but a big win for Alverca. But to be fair, AVS actually started the game very well. They first had a chance for Rafael Barbosa, who forced a save out of Benfica loanee Andre Gomez, but the second time, Pedro Lima would get on the end of a cross from Rivas with an excellent finish to make it 1-0. Alverca would score an absolute screamer, and to be fair, it was a massive deflection of Hjulmand, but from 30 yards out, Amorim, no not that one, struck it and caught the goalkeeper flat-footed, and it sailed over his head into the top corner before half-time to make it 1-1. Alverca would make it 2 before the 55th minute, after a great ball from Lincoln found Figueiredo on the edge of the box, who cut inside and scored with a great finish. Originally ruled out for offside, but VAR showed he was onside by 10 centimetres. Then one of the weirdest goals I've ever seen come up next. After a free kick into the box was headed away from AVS defender Bane, it then hit the other AVS defender Rivas, fell into the path of Sandro Lima, who hit the ball straight to the keeper, who saved it, but then Sandro Lima, the ball hit him in the arse to be quite frank, and ended up in the back of the net, but VAR ruled it out for a foul on the goalkeeper. But AVS were not going to get any more luckier. Substitute Gonzalo Esteves made it 3-1 with a run from the corner flag, went past 2 defenders and slotted it home to score, getting yellow card for a very aggressive celebration, it must be said, but still a fantastic goal. The best players for me for AVS has to be Pedro Lima. He scored a goal and really arguably should have had 2. He won his only aerial duel and made 2 clearances. Alverca for me, I'm going to have to go with Figueiredo. A goal, 3 shots on target, 1 out of 2 long balls completed, 5 out of 8 ground duels won, and was fouled 3 times. The worst players for me, for AVS, I'm going to have to go with Gustavo Unsasal. 0 out of 1 crosses, 1 out of 4 ground duels won, lost possession 5 times, and committed 2 fouls before being subbed off in the 72nd minute. And to be honest, for Alverca, I have no one. I thought it was a great all-round team performance. The goal they conceded, yes, they could have been better defensively, but since then, they actually locked in, and they looked fantastic. Moving on to Vitória 2, Santa Clara 1, and breaking news, Vitória Guimarães have actually won a game of football. But in also breaking news, Santa Clara's star continues to dwindle. It looked like it was going to be a long day for Guimarães, as the first 5 minutes, showing great strength, Vinicius ran through the Guimarães defence and slotted home the finish. A crazy scramble in front of the goal happened in the 17th minute, when a cross found Rodrigo Abascal, with Batista saving it. Santa Clara did try to clear the ball, but put the ball right into the path of Fabio Blanco, who luckily for Santa Clara, hit the post. It would end up 1-0 for Santa Clara in the first half, as the Guimarães players were actually booed off the pitch by the home fans. But it was an instant response from Vitória. A cross from João Mendes found substitute Ndoye, who headed it home, over the goalkeeper Castillo, but unfortunately it was ruled out for offside, which was the correct call. Noah Saviolo would hit the bar after a stunning save from Batista. Saviolo with a great cut inside, a shot, hit the bar after the save, but it did bounce back into the box, but unfortunately there was not a single Vitória player there to finish it home. Santa Clara should have made it 2 on the counter, but it was a poor finish from Diogo. Vitória got a well-deserved breakthrough after captain Samu found Ndoye from a cross, and it was a great header from the big man to send it home. Speaking of Samu, he would score straight after. From a corner, when the original 10 went to Rivas, it was saved by Batista, but he saved it right in front of the direction of Samu, who managed to make it 2-1. I thought Samu might have been offside, but no call was given. Santa Clara did have 3 chances towards the end, but none that troubled the goalkeeper, and in the end, Vitória were the deserved winners, as Santa Clara looked lost at the moment, and Vasco Matos might find himself unemployed very shortly. Key players, Vitória for me has to be the captain Samu, leading by example. He had a monster performance, a goal and an assist, 30 out of 36 passes, 2 out of 2 dribbles, 4 out of 7 ground duels won, a proper captain's performance. For Santa Clara, even though he conceded 2, it has to be Gabriel Batista. He maybe should have done better on the second, but he had some monster saves this game. Invented 0.66 goals, but was let down by his defence. The worst for Vitória is Miguel Maga, Donald Trump's favourite player, but he had a game to forget. 0 out of 2 long balls, 0 out of 2 ground duels won, lost possession 14 times and committed a foul. For Santa Clara it has to be Sidney Lima. 0 out of 1 crosses, 3 out of 9 long balls, 0 out of 2 aerial duels won and lost possession 10 times. Moving on to Arouca 1, Famalicão 1, and Arouca looked to bounce back from an awful performance against Porto, leading most of the game 1-0 until a red card and a late Famalicão goal stole the result from their grasp. And both keepers Valido and Karasevic were tested in the first half, with both making huge saves, but it was until the 27th minute where actual first clear chance was taken, when Rafa Suarez took a hit from outside the box, which had beat the keeper but unfortunately hit the post. Again before the half, Fama and Arouca both had chances in their respective goalkeepers, but they both pulled out again big saves. It looked like Famalicão were about to take the lead after Gil De Haas found Samu and Ndoye for a wide open goal, but unfortunately Ndoye put it right over the bar. Famalicão did score in the 44th through Ndoye, but it was ruled out for a foul on the defender, which I think is pretty harsh. Arouca took the lead in the 57th minute when a mistake from Justin De Haas put Tondela through on goal, and although Karasevic got a hand to it, it was just too powerful to keep out. 1-0 Arouca. But in the 83rd minute, Jose Fontan, already on a yellow, mistimes his tackle. Just outside the area, but it was the second yellow of the game and he was sent off. Centre back Justin De Haas stepped up to take the free kick, and scored it, bending it past the wall on the keeper's near side to equalise. But for Famalicão it was too little too late, as the game ended 1-1. Best players for me, Arouca, Alfonso Teresa, a goal, 2 key passes, 1 big chance created, 3 out of 6 ground duels won, a solid game all round. For Famalicão it is Gil De Haas, and it was a monster game from the winger. 4 out of 8 crosses, including 1 to Samu and Ndoye that really should have been scored, 2 key passes, 2 big chances created, 6 out of 8 ground duels won, a really solid performance. The worst for Arouca has to be Jose Fontan. A red card puts him here. He did have a solid game before that, but it was his foul and red card that directly led to Famalicão's equaliser. For Famalicão, I have to go with Samu and Ndoye. I actually quite like him, but I've said that Fama had needed someone who can score in the box, and that isn't Ndoye. He missed a massive chance. He only had 16 touches of the ball all game, lost all 5 of his aerial duels and lost possession 5 times. Moving on to Vila do Conde, and Rio Ave beat Tondela 3-0, getting their first win of the season. But, to be fair, both Cesar Mista and Bernardo Fontes were forced into big saves in the first 10 minutes, and it did look to be a pretty even game. And then Fontes had to make 3 huge saves within the first 20 minutes, but could not stop Spekic on the 25th after a great pass from Clayton, and he slotted it home. Rio Ave would score a second shortly after. It was a calamity of errors, first Juan Rodriguez getting dispossessed in his own half, then Bernardo Fontes coming out of his box, but he was tackled by his own defender, Brian Medina, and Angel Luis had a wide open goal and slotted it home, although Clayton did look a bit annoyed as he stole the goal directly off him. Clayton would eventually get on the score sheet though, after a beauty of a goal, shooting the ball across goal, leaving no chance of Fontes after a great pass from Andre Luis. However, the Calais train was sent home early after a second yellow for elbowing Marquez. But also, Brian Medina would also commit a foul right after, and he would be sent off for a second yellow. Both teams down to 10 men, but Rio Ave were definitely the better team. The best players for me, Rio Ave has to be Andre Luis. The winger got a goal, assist, 4 out of 5 dribbles, 6 out of 8 ground duels won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won. Overall a fantastic performance from the winger. Tondela, sorry boys, it's no one here. I genuinely would have given it to Fontes if not for his error, although it's not all on him. But genuinely, I thought Tondela were just so bad this game, especially to a team like Rio Ave who've not won a game all season. For Rio Ave, I have to go with no one for their worst player. I thought everyone played well, even the substitutes that came on entered pretty well. Clayton did get a red, but he also scored and they won the game, so I won't put anyone here for now. For Tondela, I'm going to go for Braga and Medina. He was at fault for the second goal and was sent off for a poor game. Moving on to one of the saddest results, Sporting 1, Braga 1, and what a frustrating result this was, man. Sporting were winning 1-0 until the 93rd minute, until a moment of madness from Hjulmand. But Sporting took the lead very early from Luis Suarez after some questionable goalkeeping from Hornacek and defending from Niakite. But Sporting looked a level below their usual performances all game. Constant long balls found no one, players weren't winning their duels, and players like Trincao, Pedro Gonçalves and Morita looked a shell of their former selves. Although Braga did have more possession, they didn't have that many chances, apart from a save from Rui Silva that was off the line. But Braga, especially Salazar, was excellent. Salazar ran their midfield, an incredible performance, and he had Maxi Arouca fouling him all game left, right and centre. Sporting did have a few chances, especially when Alisson came on, and it looked like he might have scored a few himself. But Giovanni Kenda was fantastic all game. It was a real mature performance from him, although he didn't get on the score sheet. There was a few penalty calls. Firstly, Maxi pulling down a Braga player in the box, which personally I thought was a pen, but wasn't given. Then again, Maxi Arouca sliding and the ball hitting his arm, but it would have hit his body anyway. For that one, I would say that's good, that's not a penalty. But then in the 93rd minute, a free kick from Braga sails into the box and eventually goes up for a goal kick. But suddenly the referee stops play. The referee is now listening to VAR, and on replay, it's very clear that Hjulmand pulls the Braga player's shirt, giving away a penalty, and Salazar converts from the spot. Alisson did have another chance, and to be fair, I thought he was about to score, but unfortunately sent it over the bar. And it was a poor performance all round from Sporting, but a massive point from Braga. Best players for me, Sporting, Giovanni Kenda. He was very good, like I said, a very mature performance. 3 out of 5 long balls, 5 out of 7 ground duels, 1 out of 1 aerial duels, 2 out of 3 dribbles, a fantastic game. Braga for me has to be Rodrigo Salazar. He scored the penalty, 40 out of 54 passes, 2 out of 4 crosses, was fouled 5 times and was actually completed 4 out of 7 dribble attempts. For Sporting, there are many players I have to put in here, but I'm just going to put in Hjulmand. A captain should know better. You should not foul at that point, especially when the ball has gone over your head. Either defend the ball better or just don't foul him. Leave it for Rui Silva, I suppose, but that was really poor from the captain. Braga for me has to be Pau Victor, 45 minutes, and I did the same as him. We both had no shots on target, we both didn't complete a single dribble, we both didn't win an aerial duel, he only had one and he lost possession 3 times. Moving on to the final game of the week, the CLASSICO, Porto versus Benfica, and to be honest, what a boring game. Prime Mourinho ball, a 0-0 away. Genuinely, there's not much to say about this game. There was only 3 shots on target in the whole match combined. Porto had more possession, but really couldn't do much with it. Benfica defended quite well. However, 2 decisions that I think should have been given. One, a penalty on Dennis Gould after Antonio Silva pulled him down in the box. And Pavlidis did elbow a Porto player in the head, but that one was a bit more difficult to see, so I understand why that wasn't given. But for me, Dennis Gould should have been given a penalty. Overall, probably a fair result, but a bloody boring one. For me, the key players is Bednarek. I thought he's been fantastic ever since joining Porto, and he proved it in this game today. In total, 81 out of 89 accurate passes, 3 clearances, 1 blocked shots, 2 interceptions, and 6 out of 8 aerial duels won. For Benfica, I'm going to go Enzo Barrechea. Passing was just fantastic. 66 out of 73 passes, 9 out of 12 long balls, 4 out of 6 ground duels won, 2 out of 2 aerial duels won, and he also hit the post. The worst players for me, Porto, is Pepe. He was awful all game. 1 shot the entire game, which was off target. 0 out of 1 dribbles, 15 out of 24 passes, 0 out of 3 crosses, lost possession 16 times, and won 2 out of 8 ground duels. Finally, Pavlidis was my worst performer for Benfica. No shots, 12 out of 20 passes, won 1 of 6 aerial duels, lost possession 11 times, and arguably should have had a red card. Look at the table, I'll go from top to bottom. Porto are in 1st, Sporting are in 2nd, Benfica are in 3rd, Gil Vicente are in 4th, Moreirense 5th, Famalicão 6th, Vitória 7th, Braga 8th, Nacional 9th, Alverca 10th, Arouca 11th, Rio Ave 12th, Santa Clara 13th, Casa Pia 14th, Estrela de Amadora 15th, Estoril 16th, Tondela 17th, and lastly, of course, as always, ADS 18th. What did you think of this game week? What did you think of the Sporting, Porto, Benfica, Braga result? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm Samu and Ndoye. Thank you very much for watching Touchline Tugao or Liga Portugal this week. I'll see you in 2 weeks after the international break, and peace.